Welcome to Lifestyle Solopreneur, the community for entrepreneurs who put lifestyle first. Join your host, Flavia Barris, as she interviews successful lifestyle solopreneurs and shares ideas to help you find the perfect balance between lifestyle, business, and self. Flavia is an attorney, marketing expert, and founder of several online academies. She's been featured in major media, including BBC World News, The Wall Street Journal, The New York Post, ESPN Television, and more. Join us for this episode of Lifestyle Solopreneur.
Hey, Lifestyle Solopreneurs. Today we get to speak with Russ Morgan. He is Wealth Without Wall Street's founder and partner. He's known as the Idea Guy. He began his professional career as an investment advisor in 2004 after graduating from Auburn University, which was a slight detour from his 10-year-old Russ's dream of becoming a professional baseball pitcher. He started IBC in 2009 and eventually went on to found Wealth Without Wall Street in 2015. Russ's mother was an enormous inspiration for him growing up. I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about that. Welcome to the show, Russ.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
It's amazing having you on here. And I love talking about investments because I'm a firm believer that at all times we should be investing in our future, whether it's educating ourselves, whether it's financial investments, whatever it is. The term investment really means like planting something today for growth in the future. So tell us a little bit, what is your background? How did you end up being the founder and partner of this company and what you're working on now?
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity to be on here. And I think as the idea of being someone who's focused on a lifestyle, right? You say solopreneur, and so many times that's where we start. We start out in this world of trying to figure out how I can make a living, and we want to improve the lifestyle based upon that. So we add things to our plate. Sometimes it gets us closer to what we want, and sometimes not so much. And I won't take you all the way back, but I started out in the financial industry. I became a certified financial planner. So when you hear the name Wealth Without Wall Street, I think why I'm qualified to speak about wealth without Wall Street is because I used to be wealth within Wall Street. I used to be the one that was
Opposite.
I was getting paid to separate people from their money. And it was the market's downfall in 2008 that really left me palms to the sky trying to figure out what had happened, why it had happened. And more importantly, the deeper question was what was going to prevent it from happening again. And I had no certainty. All the mentors I had at that point in time in the financial industry had no answers. They were just as scared as I was. Now, I was 4.5 years in the business at that time. I still, even though I thought I'd had success, thought I knew some things, realized I was still pretty new. But the people who were 20 and 30 years in the business, and they were just as scared as I was, that left me a little bit uncertain. And I prefer certainty. I love being able to build things, but I love building with confidence, seeing what can work. And I set out on this path to try to figure out how I could build a lifestyle that would allow me to have more of the things I wanted. And my wife and I have 4 kids. My wife homeschools. That wasn't the case at the time. She was a dentist, having to work as a solopreneur in her dental practice, and she wanted a better lifestyle. And so we were trying to figure out what could we do that would create more freedom for both of us. And that's where I led, to where I am today. We could talk about that journey, but I definitely resonate. And if that's where you are, I've definitely been there.
So what is Wealth Without Wall Street? Tell us what it is. I love, by the way, maybe because I was an English major in college and I love alliteration, but those 3 W's in a row. So Wealth Without Wall Street. What is it?
So it's a movement. It's a movement of people who want to become financially free. Our goal is to help 1 million people who want to become financially free get there faster. Wall Street, obviously, we all kind of resonate with Wall Street, probably from the investments we've made up to this point, probably in mutual funds, stocks, bonds, something like that, ETFs. And it's not necessarily just about that, but it's more so the mindset that comes with that I have to abdicate the responsibility to someone else. So Wealth Without Wall Street is about taking control, right? I don't know about you, but when I get in a car, I want to be in the driver's seat. I want to control the outcome of just the small trip that I'm in a vehicle. Well, for life, when we think about what do we want to have happen for us, so many of us have been told we should abdicate that responsibility to someone else. They're going to be smarter than we are with money. They're going to know what to do with it better than we are. We need to just keep our heads down, focus on the one thing that we're doing. And that's then we're going to lift our heads up in 35 years, 40 years, and we're going to be where we want to be. And we can then live the lifestyle at that point that we want. With what Wall Street's saying no to that. Whether Wall Street's saying, no, you are smart enough. You're an investor. You're a business owner. You're a successful professional. You have all the capability, and nobody has more vested interest in the outcome than you do. But the problem is we just haven't been taught how to become a better investor because we've never put our money in a position where we could control it. And so What's Without Wall Street is about teaching you there is a process. We wrote a book. It's called What's Without Wall Street, The 3 Steps to Freedom Through Passive Income. And we talk about how can you build this certainty in your life? How do you know where you are in relationship to where you want to be? And I'll pause for just a second after this point because I know you have some questions. Is most of us going through Wall Street, we're just saving money in hopes that it will be enough. The formula for financial freedom is when your passive income, that's money that comes in that you're not actively having to go to work for, exceeds your monthly expenses. So no matter where you are today, you can tell with certainty as a percentage how close you are to financial freedom by just literally saying, how much in passive income do I have? And I'll use a simplified example of, I have rental property and it's bringing in $1,000 a month net after all the expenses. And I have expenses of $10,000 a month in my life. If you took that 1,000 and divided it into the 10,000, you're saying, I'm 10% of the way to financial freedom. And so for us, helping people understand where they are and then utilizing that framework to make decisions that give them closer to what they want to have is really what Wall Street's about.
What is your personal philosophy on investing? Are you, because of your background with Wall Street, are you more positive about stock investing and being in the stock market versus you just mentioned real estate, which is its own asset class, which has a lot of benefits as well? As most listeners know, I'm big on real estate. As we know, we've had a lot of guests on who talk about real estate investing. Or we've also had guests who say you should be invested by owning, buying, or forming companies, small businesses. And, that's the best way to grow. I'm a big believer in diversification, but I love hearing from guests because almost everybody has their favorite revenue class or investment class. And I would love to hear what you think is one ideal mix. And again, this is for everyone listening. Anytime we talk about investing on this show or hard numbers or income, we're always doing it from an educational viewpoint. None of this is personal advice for anyone listening specifically because everyone's in a different position. Everyone has a different life circumstance. So we're not giving you advice, but we do want to talk about all of this to get the conversation open.
No, I love that. We're agnostic to the investment type. As you might know by the title of our company, Without Wall Street. We're not big advocates of Wall Street at all. And mostly because it's abdicating the responsibility to someone else. But so if the formula for financial freedom is passive income greater than monthly expenses. So anytime someone comes to me and say, Russ, am I making a good decision by investing in X? I always will ask the question, is it going to produce a passive income? Is it going to reduce a monthly expense? And if the answer is no and no, then I will say, is that getting you then closer to financial freedom or would that be getting you further from? So that framework alone saves so many people heartache. There's so many times where we're told from a friend or an advisor, hey, invest in this and it's going to give you this return. It's going to be worth this amount of money. And that may be great, but did it produce a passive income? Did it reduce a monthly expense? And if no, then is that really what you're trying to accomplish? So I think so oftentimes we get so confused because we're not taught simple frameworks. So when you ask, what is the best investment? The best investment is actually the one that you know the most about. It's the one that you actually probably have the ability to influence its outcome. And I didn't know this personally until I had been investing in some rental properties, real estate rental properties. And while the outcome was exactly what was stated to me, I wasn't resonating with it. It wasn't getting me closer, in my opinion, to financial freedom. And it was because I wasn't really investing a ton. I wasn't buying more. I wasn't trying to have 50 rental properties or 5 apartment complexes because I didn't feel like I could influence the outcome. And I didn't know what it was until I was having I was listening to this podcast where Tom Wheelwright, if you might know that name, he's the former CPA to Robert Kiyosaki. He's the author of Tax Free Wealth. He was doing an interview with the person from Colby, the kind of the personality assessment usually used in the workplace. And they were talking about when Tom has clients to him and want to start a new business or get into real estate, he had them do this Colby assessment. And through that assessment was helping them understand whether or not they would be good at it or not. And I thought, man, that is fascinating that the way that we see the world will impact our ability to have an outcome in something, whether it's business or in investing. And so I had been a student of the DISC profile and the DISC. Many of us have taken that, and whether we're the driver or we're the analytical, whatever, or in between, we know that we see the world and have different skill sets because of it. And I thought, I wonder how that would influence my outcome and the things that I invest in. So my business partner and I, at the time, built out this model where we took all the things that we had been investing in and we looked at it from the framework of DISC. What would be the pros? What would be the cons? How would we see it from our own personality style? And it really started to reveal to us so many interesting things that I was like, this is it. The reason why I wasn't resonating with those rental properties I had is because I was an I profile. I love to influence, right? I love being hands-on and involved. These were properties that weren't in my city that were managed by a third-party company. They were doing a good job. They were giving me a check, but I couldn't send people to them. I couldn't participate in making them go from $200 a month in net income to $800 a month, for instance. Like I had no ability to influence the outcome. And that was a con for me. And then I started thinking, what do I like? And so we started investing in lots of things. So I will tell you, if you want to go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/passive income, you can actually see the things that I and my business partner invest in. Going all the way back to 2020, we started publishing to the world our personal passive income report. So now we've done it for 4 years. We started out with $2,400 a month of passive income. This past month we recorded it, we were a little over 58,000. And we just share what we're doing and all the lessons that come along with it.
That's amazing that you're so transparent and open and just willing to share. Because I think that's the hope for humanity, right? Is that there's still so many people out there who are willing to share and help and lead the way. And if you find something that works and has done well for you, to not keep it a secret and to not hoard it for yourself, but instead to ask other people to step up and do more in their own lives. I think that's wonderful. So again, that was wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/passive income, correct?
That's correct. Just a hyphen between passive and income.
Okay. wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/passive income. So I have a question for you. What is like this thing that you talk about called investor DNA?
Yeah, so that investor DNA was what I was just describing there with the assessment where we have someone take this DISC analysis, and you probably maybe even already know it. You've already taken it. Maybe you're the S profile. You're very empathetic, right? You're the person that cares about others more than you care about yourself. You love steady and dependable. And that's the way we typically want to invest. And if you're that person and you have other people doing things around you, maybe investing in e-commerce businesses or starting a short-term rental business in their hometown, and that's risky. I'm not going to do that. The reason why you don't want to do that is because that in your eyes is not steady and dependable. You like consistency. You like to be able to see things from the perspective of how will it work out based upon what's happened in the past. We built out this passive income matrix that now has almost 15 different asset classes and ways that we've seen personally and people that we've interviewed on our podcast be able to produce passive income. We took that assessment and took all the experts and then started doing surveys on everyone else of how they saw those different investments. Our investor DNA process takes people through not only getting their DISC assessment, but then ultimately applying that framework over and overlaying it over different passive income strategies. So they can look at things and say, ooh, I would like this because ... Oh, here's what I won't like about it. And then lastly, we also throw in there, what are those key factors? How much time would be involved in this? How much detail work? How much money would be involved? things that we all need to know, even though we may resonate with it. Maybe we don't have the time to do it, or maybe we don't have the money to do it. All of those things is what we utilize in this investor DNA process, which is helping people really expedite to get to the passive income that they want in a much faster process because they're eliminating the mistakes that we've made and others have made by not connecting those dots.
And talk about your podcast. I know everyone listening is a podcast lover, obviously. And so you have a podcast. What are the kinds of guests that you have on, or what topics do you usually dive into?
Yeah, we've been podcasting since 2017. It's crazy now. Here we are recording this in 2024, that's 7 years later. But our podcast guests, either our formula is really simple. Can they will they talk about a passive income? What passive income can they create? And we want to listen and learn. Some of them are providing streams of income. A lot of them are showing, here's what I did. And now maybe they're coaching on it as well. Or is there a strategy that's going to help us reduce our monthly expenses and we need to learn about? And so we will interview different tax professionals and people that share strategies that as investors, entrepreneurs can help us reduce our taxes.
And besides that great podcast, you also offer your knowledge, your point of view in books. So tell us a little bit about the books that are available.
Yeah, so the book we just released is Wealth Without Wall Street: 3 Steps to Freedom Through Passive Income. It was an Amazon bestseller in 3 different areas when it came out, which was pretty cool. It talks about the 3 steps, which is really for most people, they don't have a defined goal. They don't really know what they want. They just start invest. And no matter how hard you're running, if you're not running in the right direction, you'll actually get further away from your goal, not closer. So we help people really early on define what they want so that they can get more of it. And so many people, what they really want after they break it down and it takes a little time to get there, they want more time, right? They want to pursue their purpose or their passion. And so we ask, okay, if that's what you're wanting, are you tracking it? Are you seeing, are the things you're doing getting you closer to it, or are they getting you further from? The second step is a plan. And by the way, the acronym is GPS, Goal Plan Support. You know that anytime we get in cars, typically we pull out our whatever our favorite navigation app is, and we're using that GPS system. For us, is what's that plan we're going to use? What's that P? Is how do we actually build out the models, build out the framework of our investor DNA, build out our buy box? How are we going to start taking action on that based upon where we are and where we want to go? And the third step is support. I wouldn't be here talking to you without mentors in my life that it really poured into me, and being in a bigger room, just being able, as you mentioned, I grew up in a household, a single family. My mom worked hard as she could, but she didn't know anything about money. She couldn't teach me about money. And I went into the financial industry to hope to learn about money, which was not really true because there was a lot of people that didn't know anything about money there either. They just had fancy degrees and designations. It wasn't until I got mentors who really understood money and started challenging me to think completely bigger. When you know you're in the right room is when you bring an idea to somebody, and they put their arm around you and say, that's cute. But let me show you from my vantage point what I see. And because of that, we've been able to build 8 to 10 businesses now. Obviously, our passive income has continued to grow and expand. But more importantly, it's the number of lives and the people that are saying, hey, I've stopped trading time for money, or I'm able to cook breakfast for my son every morning, or I'm able to pick up my daughter every afternoon because of what we've been doing in this result. And that's for us the big thing.
No, you mentioned your mom briefly. She was an enormous inspiration for you growing up. Dive a little further into that, because you said she didn't teach you about money. She was there for you in other ways. So how did that help support you and create the person you are today?
Yeah, I think this is a challenge I have, and maybe others listening to this would resonate. I want more for my kids than I had, kind of thing, but also don't want to give them something that they need to earn on their own. So for me, my mother and my father, they split when I was in the first grade, and my mom had completed about 2.5 years of college, but had stopped to raise my sister and I. And so she knew that working as an assistant, I think they called them secretaries at the time, was not going to be enough to support 3 of us. So she decided to go back to college. She took classes. My sister, who was 6 years older than me, was like in the 8th or 9th grade at the time, was basically raising me while my mom was trying to get this education. She was investing in herself. and ultimately got a job as a teacher. And she then went back and got her master's. So she was trying to do the only thing she knew how to make money. And I just saw her giving up, sacrificing so much for us. She was working so hard to try to provide more for us. And that effort that she put in really shaped the way that I see the things that I want to do. I want to be able to sacrifice. I want to create more for those around me than for myself. And she was definitely a huge inspiration to say she could have easily gone and said, woe is me, but she didn't. Did she need assistance? Yeah. I can remember being in the second grade and us going to the grocery store at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And it wasn't until years later I found out why. I was like, why are we at the grocery store so late? And she's, oh, it's just the lines are shorter. I found out later that she was on food stamps and she was embarrassed to be at the grocery store using food stamps. And so she would go late when there was hardly anybody there so no one would see her. I learned, man, you make sacrifices to get to where you want to, but she used that to propel herself and ultimately became independent of others because of that. But also she was a big mentor to me in the fact that she believed in God and she used that faith. She would tell me that I'm not in control of this, God is. And I definitely have seen that impact in my life as well.
Guests like you, it's so amazing that you can share your knowledge just on an episode like this. And that's a free resource. Podcasts are just a great way to learn about so many different things, new subject matter, but also just getting inspiration, getting motivation, listening to experts. But beyond that, you're very generous because you're also offering listeners a free ebook, which we will make available through our vault. We have a repository where we keep all of the freebies that any of our guests generously provide. And that's at podcastguestgift.com. That's podcastguestgift.com. You can also just probably find a lot of these resources directly on Russ's website at wealthwithoutwallstreet.com. But tell us a little bit about that ebook so people know what they're going to get when they go and download it.
Yeah, the one I want to give you is what we call the passive income operating system. And it's the whole objective is what we've learned over time is that we have to create a systematic way to turn active income into passive income. And as a solopreneur, you're working so hard, like my mom was, to try to create an income. But we also need to start producing this passive income on the side that can run and hopefully exceed our monthly expenses. So it gives us the freedom to pursue our passion income. Maybe what you're doing and you feel passionate about and want to continue to do it, never want to stop. But it gives you the freedom when you have passive income that exceeds your monthly expenses. So if you go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/PIOS, and I'll give this to you as well, you can actually see the architecture behind it, how we help people understand the mistakes that people make usually with money that commingle their dollars that prevent them from being able to make decisions. A confused mind does nothing. But then how do you take that framework to start turning active income into passive income while you sleep? How it can become automated, how it can start creating more of what you want in the future.
I could talk about investing and passive income for hours and hours, but I want to be respectful of your time. You've already given us so much of it. Thank you so much for being on today. Really inspiring, very motivating, and just a great reminder that it's like we have to tend to our gardens, right? Like earlier I said, investing is like planting seeds, but we have to be active, right? In our own future, in our own path. And you're out there helping people do that. And I am so grateful that you are doing that in the world. Thank you so much for being on the show today and doing everything you do.
Thank you for having me.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, and if you leave a review on iTunes, I promise I will read every single review. If you know someone who makes a full-time living from part-time work, and maybe this is you, please visit lifestylesolopreneur.com to nominate a guest or to nominate yourself. Because remember this, money doesn't buy happiness, but money in the hands of a happy person, there is no greater tool.
Today's episode was brought to you by the Get Shift Done program. It's a lifestyle-changing online class to help you define your business and lifestyle ambitions. and to set goals in a way you've never experienced before. This class will 10x your daily productivity with methods that will blow your mind. And if you use the coupon code PODCAST, the class tuition is 99% off. Visit GetShiftDone.com to enroll today.